Thanks everybody for joining us. For today's roundtable, please raise your Zoom hand if you have a question. The raise hand feature can be found at the bottom of your Zoom screen. So friendly reminder to please stay muted until we all call on you, or till I call on you, please. So please make sure, I'm gonna make sure that we're rolling. One moment. All right, so we are rolling. Please raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question. Excelsior newspaper, please unmute and go ahead with your question.
Hi, Janet. My name is Lucero Calderon, Excelsior newspaper, Mexico. And I would like to know, how can you define your experience in this amazing and historical place? And what can you tell maybe to other women that want to, to work in a world that is most for men?
Well, I think I've been incredibly fortunate, as have many women who have worked at Lucasfilm and ILM, to have a company that really values nurturing talent from within and giving opportunities and experiences for growth, and also provides role models with other women in leadership and executive positions. So my experience, I've been at the company for 28 years. I started as a temp, filing purchase orders in a trailer. And I wove my way through the organization by, saying yes to opportunities and hard work, but also, being able to see people in roles, see women in roles, that were in higher level positions than mine, let me know that there was a path for me. And I think, today, as is the case with so many companies, diversity and inclusion is top of mind for us at ILM. And we really are doing a lot of work to find underrepresented talent, and give opportunities by hiring for potential and developing training programs for different levels within the organization in an effort to find more diverse talent, including women. So I think the barrier we still need to cross is women in technology. However, we do have a few women in senior level roles within the technology side of the house. So I'm optimistic we'll get there.
Thank you. Jedi News, please unmute and ask your question.
Hi.
Hi, you've been at the company for 28 years, starting at Lucasfilm and then going to ILM. And in that time, there's been so many different things that have come along and changed the way that the industry works. If you have to pick one or two things that have sort of, completely changed the company's direction, what would they be?
Well, I actually started at ILM, then went to Lucasfilm, then came back to ILM. But okay. I would say that when I started the company, ILM, we were 130 people. And today, and we were in one studio in San Rafael, California. And now we're a global organization with 5 studios and more than 3,000 employees. So, probably in the 90s, in the late 90s, when computer graphics really took off in terms of a new way for films to get made, there was a huge explosion in visual effects companies and talent, and that changed the industry, right? So we started to get global in, probably around 2010. And we're still expanding. So I think that was one game changer. And then today we're continuing to grow to meet the demands for content. There's such an explosion in content needs for all the streamers, and ILM participates in anything where there's an interesting and innovative visual effects challenge. So we do virtual reality, virtual production, feature animation, and everything in between. And every project kind of changes us in some way, shape, or form. So we're always evolving, both in terms of our pipeline, but also the way that we approach production as well.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Skywalking through Neverland, go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Hi, Janet. This is Sarah and Richard from Skywalking Through Neverland. And we just wanted to know, in Light and Magic, we were blown away how technology really shaped the lives and relationships of the ILM employees, like specifically when computer graphics came in. So what I want to know is, has Stagecraft, with its technological achievements, also shaped the relationships of current ILM and Lucasfilm employees, and how? Have you noticed any changes?
Well, I think because Stagecraft is actually part of physical production, it requires us to be more physically present on set in Los Angeles, or actually in any of our volumes. We have a volume in London and one in Vancouver, but we're really part of the filmmaking team. And the whole concept of Stagecraft is that you have to design your sequences early and do your previs and create the backdrops that ultimately are projected on the LEDs, and visual effects is a part of all of that. We have virtual art departments that work hand in hand with the production designer, and we're part of the previs teams as well. And then, you know, we're operating the brain bar, as we call it, but it's the team of technology experts who are responsible for troubleshooting and moving the environments and getting everything just right on the day that we're shooting. All of those roles are much more embedded within production, you know, and I think that is really emotionally gratifying, and also kind of speaks to that mantra about ILM that we're filmmakers, you know, and there's some cross-pollination of those, the experiences that those individuals have and the exposure they get to the filmmaking process kind of, you know, cross-pollinates to other groups within the company. So even if we're not using a volume or Stagecraft per se, we can still leverage some of the key learnings about how to collaborate and design shots and so forth that can influence things like feature animation or traditional visual effects as well.
Thank you so much. Pop Radio, please unmute and ask your question.
Hi, this is Sebastian from Argentina. How are you?
Great.
George Lucas is very emotional in the documentary. So are you in touch with him? And what does he think about the way Lucas and or ILM has been up until now?
I am not personally in touch with George, but I think, you know, he is the reason, you know, we're all here at Lucasfilm and ILM. He is our inspiration and, you know, has in so many different ways revolutionized filmmaking and visual effects. He periodically comes by and checks in with our filmmakers. You know, I was on set when he came down to see the volume, as an example, on The Mandalorian. And it was really fun because the puppeteers had Baby Yoda, and they presented George with Baby Yoda, and they were all operating Baby Yoda from behind the scenes. But George, you can't help it when you hold that puppet, you start kind of bouncing and cradling. And so that was a really fun moment to see George with this next generation of filmmakers who are taking his story and bringing it to the next level, but still honoring, you know, his vision and his creativity. I can only imagine that he feels incredibly proud of, you know, where we are today and how much ILM has impacted, you know, his filmmaking friends and their storytelling. So, yeah.
Thank you. Star Wars Holocron, please unmute and ask your question.
Hi, thank you for being able to speak with us today. We wanted to follow up on an earlier question regarding the Stagecraft technology and seeing how it's evolved over time. I'm curious if you could speak to how it's evolved from maybe the days that it was on Solo to now on The Mandalorian in 2022. How has this technology kind of changed in a relatively short span of time?
Sure. So, I think we have been developing virtual production tools and techniques for many, many years, for visualizing previs on set with rough composites that would help a director visualize a shot, to virtual camera work, which we did on Rango and Transformers and Rogue One and other projects where filmmakers could find their shots, but it was still, in a computer graphic context. For Rogue One, we did get some in-camera visual effects finals using a kind of a stagecraft, but it was limited. There were just a few LED walls. The pixel count was not dense enough for us to shoot into the LED walls. But we did get a few shots where we could add some diffusion and so forth. On Solo, we did more projection work. So there were a few scenes where we put projectors around the environment, and we were able to get a lot of in-camera finals. And again, that's something we would do today. We're not saying it's Stagecraft is a magic bullet. It is an option. I think for The Mandalorian, it was that perfect recipe of ambition and opportunity. And risk-taking. Jon Favreau had a clear vision for how he wanted to make his project and bring, these amazing environments to a soundstage. And then we had Greg Fraser, who helped us pioneer some of the LED installations on Rogue One. But we had a really short period of time to test on a small volume before we all kind of decided that we were all in. So it was one of those experiences for me that reinforced what's so amazing about Lucasfilm and ILM is we attract these filmmakers who are brilliant visionaries, and we have the talent and the resources to move mountains to, achieve their vision. But it was not without a lot of sleepless nights for many of us. So, yeah. I hope that answered your question. Okay.
Thank you. Forgive me, Maximilian, go ahead.
No problem. Hi, Janet, Maximilian from Germany here. In the documentary Light and Magic, it says at one point that many people thought the original Star Wars movie, or rather the script for the original Star Wars movie, couldn't be made into a movie, that it was unfilmable with all the elaborate effects sequences. And that made me wonder, is there still such a thing today? Are there still scripts that you would consider to be unfilmable from a visual effects point of view?
Not really. No, I mean, I think if a filmmaker raison d'etre is to create the impossible and to take those opportunities to do what's never been done before and break new ground. There are certain visual effects that are harder than others, of course, recreating someone in their youth, doing realistic facial animation on a known actor. That's really, really hard, and water effects work is really hard, but nothing is unachievable. It's really about the scale of the work and the time it takes to get it done.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Pop Radio, go ahead.
Stagecraft draws a lot from video games, especially the graphic cards and stuff. So how do you see the interaction and the feedback between movies and video games?
Well, I think that's sort of the holy grail of the the future, right? Of this connected storytelling and being able to leverage assets across any platform you want to, create that unified look and experience for audiences who want to explore in a game setting or see something on the big screen, or however they want to consume that IP. For Stagecraft, we use Unreal in a lot of our design processes and also on set. And then we have some proprietary real-time rendering tools as well. So we are always looking at, what's the right tool for the job whenever we're approaching problem solving. But I do think there is, a lot of investment in off-the-shelf gaming tools, and they're getting better and better. Unreal is at the top of the heap there. So it makes it interesting to consider where the future will go. But I think that, there's going to be a lot of cross-platform content as a result of these tools getting better and faster and producing more realistic looking graphics.
Thank you. Skywalking Through Neverland, go ahead.
Okay, hey there, Janet. Through Light and Magic, we see how ILM has really taken the art of special effects just years before its time, with Go Motion and digital effects, and now with Stagecraft. Can you give us a clue onto what's next? What's the next big leap in special effects?
I think I have sort of an unsexy answer, which is that as we are growing and trying to look for talent around the world, and especially to the point I was making earlier about our commitment to diversity and inclusion, one of the gating factors is the complexity of the tools and the pipeline. And so I think a lot of that is a necessity today, that we have the best proprietary tools that are difficult to operate. And so it means that it's a rarefied talent that we need to execute. I think that in order to really level the playing field and actually to, create more visual effects faster and cheaper and maybe better, we need to invest in, a simpler tool set for some amount of the work. So I think that's where I see the future, as well as, like I was saying, the facial stuff is going to be an area that a lot of visual effects companies are going to invest in. Machine learning, AI, all of that. Everything's kind of converging in a lot of different areas of content creation, including visual effects and games.
Okay. Well, you know what? That was a very sexy answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have about 2 minutes left. So Jedi News, please go ahead.
With so many varied productions being done by ILM, from The Mandalorian to ABBA Voyage, and with 5 studios around the world, how do you divide your time? What does a typical day look like for you?
Well, I think one of the things that makes my job so interesting is that every day is new. There, like you mentioned, with all of this growth and with so many different varied projects happening at once, there's a lot of operational complexity, production complexity, staffing complexity, training, clients, all of it. The good news for me is I genuinely really love it all. I love all aspects of running the business and partnering with these amazingly talented individuals who oversee various aspects of the organization. So thankfully it's not all on me. I've got amazing leadership at each of the studios, both creative and production and operations leadership. I have a wonderful partner with Rob Brado, who is our Chief Creative Officer. So, and I think that I have the benefit of having been there for so long is that it's a shorthand. You know, with a lot of the talent that I'm working with, we know each other so well that we can just dive right into problem solving. But also, I really have a deep understanding of how the company works because I've worked in so many different departments myself. So it makes it a little bit easier to juggle everything at once. And I also work in my sleep.
Keep up the awesome work.
Thank you so much, everyone. That's all we have time for today. But thank you so much for coming. And journalists, if you're sticking around for the next roundtable, you may stay here. Janet and team, I'll be moving us back to room 1.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.